about winning as they do about each other. When the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Welcome to the best soccer show, the best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. It's the best soccer show. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, live on a Thursday. Why that sounds that way, I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you. I was doing 6 things before we came on the air.
We usually test the board beforehand. We didn't do that tonight.
It's Giovanni Reyna's fault, Jared. I mean, it's Gregg Berhalter's fault, Jared. One of those two people is at fault for this, right? Is it okay if I blame one of them?
Broken leg and broken board?
Something like that. I don't know what I changed. I don't know what I did. I was working on graphical elements. So if you're watching on YouTube, stay tuned for all the hard work I did to get the U.S. men's national team roster
That's
together.
Nick's job usually.
It is. I'm
Nick,
feeling myself.
Nick didn't even tell us he wasn't coming tonight.
Did he? I feel like he probably did, and you forgot.
Did. He probably said 2 weeks ago what his
It's like when your wife's like, I told you were picking up the kids. Why didn't you pick up the kids, Jared? What's
pick
going
up the kids
on
is a big thing to miss. I mean, I forgot to pick up eggs at the store. Like that's
so
that's
you're saying you never forget to pick up the kids, and your life you've never forgot to pick up the kids. In your entire
I
married...
remember last minute, but they've never been sitting out in front of the school like waiting for me. No,
that's always like a trope in like sitcoms and family dramas, right? The kid gets left at school because the parent, or at the practice because the parent forgets.
I'm often lucky enough that I'm not doing the pickups. So
sometimes the parents are derelicts who just are terrible people, so we don't. Yeah,
my kids are at the age now; they know to walk home.
Your school is close enough. That's a benefit. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Oh, God. Okay, you don't have to pick up your kids. What a luxury. Look at you living the life.
Oh, I pick them up because my youngest will walk into traffic, despite being double digits in years old.
We're here to talk about people who will walk into traffic, maybe? I don't know. The U.S. men's national team roster for upcoming friendlies against Jared. Quickly, which 2 countries is the United States playing? Don't look.
Kazakhstan?
No.
Uzbekistan and Oman.
Uzbekistan and Oman. What are they ranked right now in the FIFA rankings, if you value such things?
I will say, I don't know if I know you can tell you which one's higher. I'll say Uzbekistan is higher.
I actually don't remember which one is higher, but I do remember where they are.
I'm going to say 63rd and 78th.
Okay, so here's the thing. They are right next to each other in the rankings. They are literally right next to each other. And I believe one of them is 73rd in the world, and the other one is 74th in the world. I think I'm right on that. I don't remember which is which,
close, then.
But I don't know that it matters too much because, they're in the 70s. So they're not supposed to be much of a challenge for the U.S. men's national team in these friendlies. Now, that's not what – I mean, as much as I'm going to talk about the roster with you today, we'll go through these names and we'll decide, did Gregg Berhalter make the right choices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Really, the big story, the thing everybody wants to talk about, is the fact that Gregg Berhalter still hasn't talked to Giovanni Reyna. That they still haven't figured out how to get all that water under that bridge. Berhalter should build the bridge.
Berhalter is this. I don't know if he's hiding behind this nouveau management. He's
you mean the leadership culture nonsense?
Yeah,
I want to say bullshit
thing,
so
man.
bad. I want to say bullshit. I'm an open-minded person, Jared. Like I think self-improvement is a good thing in general. Go read a book if you think you need to improve your mental health and think about the world in good ways. Man, I'm so over Gregg Berhalter and the leadership culture nonsense. I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
I just don't see how letting things, the longer it goes, I don't see how it gets better. I think, here's the thing. A couple months ago, he didn't even know if he was going to get the job or not. And this was the son of one of his best friends.
Well, look, can we go a little bit into Alex Jermaine Jones and ponder? Maybe he did know.
It was always.
Maybe Matt Crocker was told, hey, you know what you should do?
Listen, the pen was on paper
again.
is what I'm saying. So are we to believe then that if he didn't get this job, he would just never try to mend that bridge with something that was a former
Well,
son of a best friend?
I do think I want to
Because
give the
Berhalter
man,
has things to apologize for as well.
absolutely. I want to give the man Berhalter, not the coach Berhalter. All right, let's put him over to let's put little coach Berhalter over here to the side on the shelf. I want to give the man Berhalter, the actual human being, right? Because we all have value as human beings, Jared. Like, no matter what certain people in this country say,
in the shoes, that guy.
every single person has a value. I want to give the man Berhalter the benefit of the doubt on the emotional stuff that he went through because of what happened. Now, he had a team-related incident dealt with in Qatar, right? Yep. Now, he stepped in it. Big, fat pile of dog shit he stepped in.
Yep.
Chose to walk straight into it when he went to New York and said what he said, right? I have no compunction about saying that.
And he owes Gio Reyna an apology for that.
Absolutely he does. However, I still don't think that what he did should justify what happened in terms of the turmoil caused by the phone call that the Reynas made to Ernie Stewart. I don't think that those things are equal.
But that's not Gio's fault.
No, that's a very good point to all of this, right? But I don't think that Berhalter can separate in his head. Again, I'm giving some benefit of the doubt to Berhalter the man, not Berhalter the coach. Berhalter the man probably has some trouble separating what happened with Claudio and Danielle from what Giovanni Reyna did or did not do, and sort of how he acted, and the statement made right on Gio's Instagram right after the Howe incident and everything that Berhalter said out of school. Like, he said that, I very disappointed, blah, blah, blah. I thought this was done in Qatar. I think Berhalter's probably pretty hurt over all this stuff. And if he was not head coach of the U.S. men's national team, he can handle it however he wants.
Yeah.
Right? He can let that relationship rot and die, a carcass inside a trash can, and he'll just never touch it. Bury that thing. Get it out of here. As a coach, the man's got a responsibility to fix it, because Gio Reyna is one of the most talented players we have ever had, period, end of story. And I cannot believe you're doing your job as head coach if you leave that player out because you can't mend defense or
I'm
build
going to
a
put
bridge.
this up from Luis Villanueva in the chat. He says, I think mediation was mentioned. Sounds like Suits attorneys at Soccer House are involved in this one.
No.
Let me just finish and I'm not saying this is exactly what Luis is saying, but I want to flesh this out in a certain manner.
Okay.
Given the level of legal involvement that went on around Ernie Stewart reporting the incident, the domestic violence aspect of it, could you blame U.S. Soccer if they want to deal with this in an official capacity that is somehow going to be documented and legally protected? Does U.S. Soccer owe the entity of U.S. Soccer that protection in this regard? That it should be done in a mediated environment where it's not just two dudes on the phone, and then someone goes, "Hey, this guy said this on the phone. There's no evidence of it," and now it's getting worse.
No, Berhalter didn't say, "Hey, we're going to go through U.S. Soccer for all of this, and they're going to facilitate a meeting, and we're going to make sure it's handled in official channels." He didn't say that. What he said was, I've reached out to mediation experts, because that's who he is. It's the leadership.
Absolutely. I feel that too.
That's
too.
what
he seems
that
to
is.
be that guy, but also he could just be saying that's what I've been told to do.
No, I don't buy that for a second. I mean, I have no reason. I have no way to prove that, but I don't think that this involves U.S. Soccer. I think this is Berhalter overthinking, like he is so often want to do, a process that is pretty simple, right?
Yeah,
you show
it just
up in
feels
Dortmund,
like the longer he puts
pick
this
up
off,
the phone.
the worse it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I don't even think that that's the point. I mean, for me, the point is your job is to help the U.S. men's national team win soccer games. And Giovanni Reyna is going to be a key part of making the best possible U.S. men's national team. That's now. That's next year at the Copa America. That's 2026 on American soil in a World Cup. If you've been on the job since June, as you said, in an official capacity, like anything you did before that, whatever, man. Do you go trotting about Europe and talk to all the coaches and have leadership conferences? Yeah, you've had a whole summer where Gio was doing what, Jared? What was Giovanni Reyna doing this summer?
Sitting on a broken leg.
He was resting, trying to heal. He was not doing anything. Why on earth? No matter how awkward it was going to be, and no matter how hostile, because I do think the man's got himself quite an attitude, quite a chip on his shoulder. No matter how hostile Gio is in that scenario, when Gregg shows up, Gregg just needs to say, listen, I'm the coach. I want you to be part of my team. this is only going to work if you and I get on the same page. I'm not here to talk about your parents. I'm not here to talk about what they did or did not do. I'm here to talk about you and me and the U.S.
Let
men's
me ask
national.
you a question.
And
If you are a 20-year-old, is that what Gio is right now? 20?
I do believe he's 20.
You're a 20-year-old Gio Reyna chilling in Germany a month ago.
Yeah.
And Gregg Berhalter's number comes up on your phone.
I mean, he might not have been in Germany a month ago, but I take your
wherever,
point. He was somewhere.
Wherever
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
Your phone goes off. Berhalter's phone number's on there.
What does it say? What does it say when it comes up? What does it say?
It probably says Steve Nash wannabe. I don't know.
What it says? Does it say corny MFer on it? Is that what it says?
What
does it say?
I thought I was going to go dark with it for a second, but never mind.
What does it say?
But what I'll say is, if you're Gio Reyna, do you pick up the phone the first time? Does that call go to voicemail?
Hold on. Do I have Gio's personality, or am I Jason Davis in Gio's body?
You're Gio Reyna. Do you think Gio Reyna picks up that phone first time,
Man,
or does he let him leave a message?
I do want to let this run. What does it say? What is the name that Gio Reyna has in his phone for Gregg Berhalter and Morgan's idea? Gregg Berhalter. It's very, very funny. I like that. It's very good. Keep those coming. Let's keep those coming. Look, if I ever want to play in the U.S. men's national team, and I take that job I take that responsibility seriously. If I'm a professional footballer, if I call myself that, and I want to reach the pinnacle of the game, and that means club, Champions League, all that stuff, and country, World Cup, and I know it's coming to my country in 3 years, yes, I pick up the phone. Because I know I have to at some point.
You pick up first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Because
I think I flex. I'm like, I'm going to let this first one go to voicemail, and I'll see what he says.
But that's not, I mean, that's probably what Gio actually does or did.
And then I'll give him a call back when I'm convinced. Because here's the thing. Are you in the headspace to take that call?
What is this?
You're going to randomly get the call.
Is this Succession? Are we doing Succession here? What is happening?
I'm just saying there's a power move to be had here. Berhalter is choosing the time and place for that call. Maybe Gio's like, I'm not in the right place for that. I'm going to call him when I'm ready to talk. They made the first step. I want to hear what he says on the voicemail. Is it like, what's up, dog? I really need to talk to you.
Well, look,
how does he come at him?
I'm caught in that place between like, damn it, Gio, be a man, be an adult, accept your responsibility in this, be the bigger man and move forward. And that's like the parent in me, because that's what I would tell my kid, right? Like, hey, let this go because life is too short and you've got things you want to accomplish. Don't let this be a thing that hurts you, because I do think that Gio, if he handles this poorly, could hurt himself in the long run.
All right.
At the same time, hold on. At the same time, I understand the reality that Gio's the talent, Gregg is the coach. And
I
while
would say this is like you gave your number to someone at the bar or something like that, or an ex is calling you, okay? And so let's say Berhalter leaves a message. How long does Gio have to return that call before he looks bad? Hold
on. How does this go? You gotta give me how this goes. Gio, it's Gregg. Just calling buddy to see if we can maybe patch things up. I'm really sorry about what happened.
Vacations past.
Remember when you were 6 and I threw you in the pool and you laughed like crazy, buddy? Can we get back to those days?
Get back to that.
Can I got some popsicles over at the house if you want to come by this summer. That kind of stuff.
That got creepy real quick.
Whoops, my bad.
So how long does he have to call him back? If before Berhalter takes it personally, ask me that day, right?
Well, this is what I was going to get to. While I would hope that Gio would be the bigger man in all those things, he's also 20, right? We've already established that. He's also a prima donna footballer. He just is. Yep. Like I'm not even mad about it. It's just how he is.
Every team needs a couple.
You and I have talked about how it annoys you or some other people that Gio demands the ball every second and gets upset when he doesn't get it. I love it. I want somebody like that in the U.S. men's national team. I want somebody who demands the ball
90% of the time.
Yeah, okay. So he has that attitude. He can rub you the wrong way that way. Gregg Berhalter's job is to be the bigger man. His job is to mend fences. His job is to make it better. His job is to figure out the best team on the field.
And when he said yes to taking this job again, he knew that he was signing up for that, to be the guy to extend the olive branch.
Absolutely.
Yes. So my question to you, is it a
Don't
failure?
Don't take the job if you're too scared to pick up the phone or fly to Dortmund. Is it a failure
of Gregg Berhalter that 2 months down the road, the olive branch has not been extended?
Absolutely, it's a failure.
He's pissing on the olive branch.
How can you see it as anything but a failure?
I totally agree. It's a failure.
Look, I don't know that I'm 100% on board with Gregg out, Berhalter out because of tactics or performance on the field. I think there was a lot of sort of foundational work that needed to be done. And while I would have preferred a better World Cup, I can see, at least on some level, I may not buy all of it, right? But I can at least see what he's trying to do, and I can see what U.S. Soccer believes he is capable of, right? And I don't
think
know.
It's cowardly, and I'll tell you why I think it's cowardly.
Okay.
Here's what I think Berhalter wants to do. He wants to get back in that locker room with those 26 dudes and see how they feel about the situation and pivot and get the vibe check from the squad. Because here's the thing: Berhalter doesn't need to fix things with GIO. He sold out the team and what happens behind the scenes when he sold out GIO. He didn't just sell out GIO. He sold out his integrity with every member of that team. We handle things in-house.
But here's the thing. He said that when he got rehired, or over the course of the summer since he got rehired, he reached out to everybody else, or almost everybody else. I don't know who that he left out, but he said he reached out to everybody else. So it is clear that GIO is an exception, right?
Yep.
He made in the Vanity Fair, and oh my God, what are we doing here? Vanity Fair. In the Vanity Fair
he can reach out to
piece,
Vanity Fair, but he can't reach out to Gio Reyna.
He's like, well, there are some sensitivities. I actually said that in the press conference with the roster. There's some sensitivities around, and I get that there are sensitivities, but it is still a player and a coach, and you need to fix it. Call him up, show up. Look, if you need a buffer, take BJ with you. GIO apparently loves BJ. Played real well for him at the Nations League.
Yeah, you're making an interesting point there. I think he should be in person. He was in Europe these last 2 months. Like, he went to Europe. He was out there. Like, why not make that stop?
Man could have gotten him a cardigan. Got himself it's the summertime, so probably not appropriate. But he could have gotten himself some nice Euro gear, gotten on a train, gone to Paris, spent a couple days, got on another train, ended up in Dortmund, knocked on a door and said, GIO, what the hell is up? Let's talk.
If you really cared for the player, that player right now is having a hard start to the season already. Coming back from a broken leg, he suffered for this national team. And now he's got another hurdle to start the season. And now he's got this crap going on in the media again because Berhalter can't get off his bum and take care of this shit for himself. He's just making GIO's start to the season even harder than it needs to be too, because now GIO's in the press and he hasn't even done anything wrong.
It's just so much bumbling into crap. Screwing up without intentionally screwing up, or without even really all of it's the best intentions. Greg didn't go to New York.
You made out with a girl. You know where all the parts are, but you can't figure out in the dark where to find them, what to do with them. That's Berhalter.
I don't know. This isn't going to work because the board screwed up. You don't want that this way too loud.
You can't figure out the strap in the back.
No, what I was going to say is that Berhalter keeps doing these things where it's like, well, he didn't mean to do that, but. Like the Howe Institute thing, right? He's immersed in this leadership culture, and he goes to New York,
be a guru,
and it's supposed to be Chatham House rules because we're all super fancy and we're all in this little clique, and it's like a weird fraternity, and I don't know what I don't know what the initiation rites are, but I hope they don't involve something freaky. And he's like, here's a great example of leadership within our team, and I believe him that he was trying to say our team handled this, and this was our structure, and here's how I as the head coach of the team helped set up a structure that delivered a good result for our team. But damn it, man, don't be talking shit out of school. Don't be telling people stories.
We're getting a lot of run tonight. Berhalter's a non-confrontational man in a job that requires confrontation.
That sounds about right.
I'm not sure if it requires confrontation, but it involves at least altercation, involvement. I don't think that he is good at being a catalyst for conversation. And that being said, he held Weston McKennie accountable. But again, this is very sort of modern leadership approach. And I know there are generals and stuff he talks to, and CEOs who have to make command decisions. But the situation, he wasn't in the wrong.
But this is right. But this is what Berhalter, and again, I know this is all very modern approach. We've got a committee, and the committee helps make a decision. And maybe Berhalter signs off on the ultimate decision, and really the buck stops on his desk. But he's passing that buck when it comes to the choice, right? Let's have everybody vote on this. What do you think we should do with GIO? La, 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 la. And here he is in a moment when it requires him to make a decision and be the person who handles the confrontation. And he doesn't have anybody to turn to and go, hey, guys, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? He doesn't have a team together. And I really do believe that Gregg Berhalter thought, hey, what I'll do is call Gio up when it's time. And everybody will be together and it'll all be okay. And we'll all be back together and the culture will take care of it and it'll be fine. And that has not happened.
Point, Frank, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Frank from Orange County says, unless I missed something, I thought Gio wasn't even able to play. He's not. He wasn't eligible for this. He's just getting back to training with Dortmund. But what came out with this roster release is Berhalter for the first time had to have press conferences. He drops the Vanity Fair article. So at the same time where Gio isn't called up for roster, he was not going to get called up for anyway. But we get the Gio news that Berhalter hasn't dealt with the situation yet. That's what's coming out simultaneously.
Yeah, look,
separate things.
Man, look, I do think in a national team environment, as opposed to a club environment, which requires sort of daily man management, right? That you can get away with being a little bit less direct with how you lead the team. Like, I think that's okay on some level. And here's Jason saying, I think Gregg is wrong for not talking to Gio, but I think he wants to make sure this is done correctly. That's fine on some level, but you've made, what's frustrating about this is that he's made this a story that has lingered and lingered and lingered because, and I don't even know if I care if he's lying. Just go to Vanity Fair or get in front of those reporters during that press conference about the roster and say, hey, I've reached out to Gio. And that's it. Don't answer any other questions.
JTT in the chat tonight, because we need JTT or someone in the next.
I want to play his drop, but I don't know if it's going to sound good.
No,
Can I try?
No. I want someone in the press room to ask him, what is it about time that you think is going to help with this conversation? Because that's the only thing that is happening right now is time. He's giving it more time. The conversation's the same either way. So what is it about giving it more time that you think is going to improve this?
I really do think
that's what he owes us an explanation
for him. He's not able to disconnect the family stuff from the team stuff.
Then he shouldn't have the job.
I think that's what it. And I know that, and that's what I said. Like it might not be fair. Like, okay, again, I know lots of people don't want him to have the job, and I didn't want him to come back. I'm on the record as saying hire somebody else, get a fresh perspective on this group and on what they're capable of, and all those things. And I still believe that. That's still my opinion. But you could also say that it may not be fair to Berhalter if he gets disqualified from having this job because of what happened with the Reynas. But that's too bad, dude. Like, too bad.
I can't believe that Joe Cocker would have hired Berhalter without a definitive answer to the question of how are you going to deal with the Gio situation. That answer should have been written in pen right above where he signed his contract. And
like, again,
it feels like there was no plan.
This is the last time we'll say this. James saying Gio is hurt though, so isn't it all moot? No, it's not moot because Gio's going to be back in this team at some point. He will be healthy at some point, and he will be back in this team, and it won't be moot. And again, I would rather talk about this roster for a full hour. I would rather talk not about Uzbekistan and Oman necessarily, but I would rather talk about the future and some of the new pieces and all that stuff. But I feel like we have to give the first 25 minutes of the show to this story because Berhalter has made it the focus by not dealing with it. And the Vanity Fair piece is so very obviously meant to sort of massage the narratives so that we are in a place where we're like, oh, well, eventually they'll take care of it. Ho hum, let's move on. Everybody,
to judge Berhalter by what he chooses to invest time in. He chose to invest time in appearing for a Vanity Fair article rather than invest the time in mending the fences with a player that needs to be mended. It is fair for us to judge him by what he chooses to prioritize.
That's not a zero-sum game necessarily. He can do both, but he didn't do both. He didn't do both. All right, so I mean, do we need to belabor this anymore? Do we need to go on about Gio?
I could talk about this for a long time, but we can feel free to move to the roster because that's what actually matters.
Okay,
all right, matters too. But.
Let's talk about this roster again. The board is broken.
I do want before we're to the roster, but I feel like you and I didn't deal with this conversation when I brought this point up. Berhalter has work to do with this team as well, correct?
In terms of his relationships,
yes. Don't you feel like he took damage with the rest of the team as well?
Okay. I can only go by what evidence we have about their reaction. And Pulisic seemed over it. Adam seemed over it. Tim Ream said we took care of it in Qatar. There's nothing to talk about. I know there's more, and they're probably not giving us the full truth. I think there may be some guys who are a little bit testy about it. And, well, Pepe's a kid who got upset he didn't get called into the World Cup, which, again, I don't like that decision. But I don't think that his response is sort of like defensible in any real way. Again, if he's a professional, if he's a footballer, he wants to be in this team. Scally, these guys are emotional. I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal if guys say stuff. I mean, Luca De La Torre said, Berhalter wanted me to work on this area of my game. And everyone's like, well, that's the best part of his game. What the hell is he talking about? And then Luca's in the team and goes to the World Cup.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm just saying that if you're the leader of a team, you need to repair the integrity issue that is perceived or otherwise.
Well, again,
in that
he apparently reached out to everybody. So I don't know if that included an apology for what happened in New York or not. We don't know. It could have, it might not have, right? I don't know. We're going to see, right, as these guys get ready for important things next year. I don't know that we can really judge them on anything that happens in 2023 at this point, right? Which is kind of difficult. All right, so let's get to the roster that Berhalter has called up for these friendlies against Uzbekistan and Oman. We will start with goalkeepers. Jared are your goalkeepers. Drake Callender, Inter Miami. Ethan Horvath, Nottingham Forest. Matt Turner, Nottingham Forest. Is it the first time we've ever had two goalkeepers from the same club team? Certainly outside the U.S.
That's awkward. I can't remember a time that does ever happen. That's very awkward. I can't remember. Was these the three that we? No, we said Gaga instead of Ethan Horvath. That's who
we did. We say Gaga? Okay.
Did.
Well, he's getting rocked, so I guess maybe leave him in Belgium to figure it out.
At the end of the day, Matt Turner's the top keeper in this. I mean, you could make a choice. What was it? Since he's keeper, it was probably on the. I forget his name. That probably should be on the
Celentano,
well.
who our man Nicholas Soup and Sausage was certainly, and he admitted his bias. I mean, I think,
number one team in the league, you're doing something right.
Yeah, but I don't know that you can pick, but I don't know that you can say, well, there's so much difference between Celentano and Callender that it sort of gets into a place where you're upset about the third keeper.
So the question is this Horvath getting some time? He's not going to get a lot of time this season playing behind Matt Turner. They're actually talking about bringing another keeper into Forest as well. I'm not sure if you heard that or not. They're talking about bringing another keeper from Greece, I believe, into
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I believe so. I think I read that this week.
Man, what is it about Ethan Horvath that he always ends up in these situations?
I don't know. I mean, maybe this is Berhalter just trying to make sure he gets some time, get something positive, because I don't think he's going to get much positive reinforcement playing for Nottingham Forest this year. So, defender, I mean, goalkeepers pretty much chalk. All three, you can make the case, and none of those are really a surprise.
Okay, so let's go to, and the way that I did this, I've got fullbacks, if I can find them. There they are.
You think Stefan's dead to Berhalter like John Brooks is now?
You think? No, I don't think so. But
he's
not
choice at Man City
because he's not playing any first team minutes. It's just All right, so here are your fullbacks: Serginho Dest, Christopher Lund, Jared.
Yeah, that's one that you and I definitely didn't have. Honestly, I'd never heard the kid's name before this week.
Yeah, we did mention Kevin Paredes, but I don't think we had him in our team. Jedi Robinson.
He has a wild card. Yeah.
And Joe Scally. So,
three left backs here.
It's Dest. Well, so Dest.
Well,
Paredes is like a winger who's going to play fullback, I guess, in this situation. I mean, look at this. There's two guys with 0 caps. Jedi Robinson and Serginho Dest are your locked-in starters, and Scally is your sort of all-purpose backup.
I think what Berhalter's thinking here is that against teams as low-ranked as Uzbekistan and Oman, we're going to have a lot of the ball. Perhaps you go with a 3-man back line, and if you go with a 3-man back line, Paredes.
Why on earth? Why would you think that he would do that?
I don't know. Maybe he wants to give wing backs further up the field. I'm not sure.
I mean, he could conceivably he could do that, but that's sort of also. Yeah, I don't see that happening. And we'll get to let's get to center backs because I guess.
Well, it's just weird to have Paredes listed as a fullback when you already have 2 left fullbacks. That's what I'm trying to think. What's the reasoning for that?
Because he wants the kid to get the experience and he doesn't expect him to play at all.
No, that's what he listed as a striker or midfielder. Then, I don't know.
I don't know that. Okay, yeah, the listing thing is part of this, I guess. Here are your center backs: Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, and Miles Robinson. There's nothing here that's like, Cameron Carter-Vickers is out hurt.
I think when you and I did our proposed roster, we weren't sure if Zimmerman was going to be back or not. He didn't make it back in time, so I think Zimmerman we had in there. So Mark McKenzie takes that spot. Austin Trusty had a very, very strong start. I think it was yesterday or today, and so I think a little bit too late for the roster call up. I think that Austin Trusty's probably first guy after this to potentially get in there with Cameron Carter. Not able to go. So Mark McKenzie gets the call up, but I still think that's going to be a Tim Ream and Chris Richards starting pair.
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that Mark probably deserves this look based on what he's done in Belgium, but I don't know that I have a clear sense of
But if
that.
Austin Trusty was been starting since the beginning of the season, do you think he's getting the call up or Mark McKenzie's getting it?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's very difficult to know. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers is clearly ahead if he's healthy because he went to the World Cup and Berhalter knows him in that way. But between McKenzie and Trusty, and I think they're probably both ahead of Eric Palmer-Brown, but he was also mentioned by U.S. Soccer or by Berhalter as somebody who was injured and therefore unavailable for selection. I don't think that means he would have picked him. I think he's just mentioning a guy who's part of this pool. But I don't know. I think McKenzie obviously has a longer history in the team than Trusty, so that probably wins out if they're both playing well. But Trusty's playing at a higher level in terms of the club he's playing with.
I think he had the highest foot mob rating for his entire team for the game.
Get him a trophy, man. That's like incredible. Highest FOT mob rating? That's amazing. I'm not trying to minimize. I'm just having some fun. All right. Do we want to move to midfield or anything else on the back line? Anybody else that's sort of
fairly chalk out there? I think from starters, you're thinking Dest and Andy Robinson on the outside. Is your starting center back tandem the same as mine? I said Ream and Richards, or are you thinking Ream and maybe not Ream?
I do. I think you probably need somebody like Richards if you're going to play Ream.
Ream looked good for Fulham this weekend.
Miles is left-footed or right-footed? I can't recall. Somebody knows.
He plays on the left side, but I can't remember if he's right-footed or left-footed.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know that's necessarily the deciding factor of which side he would play on with the U.S. men's national team, but I don't think that Ream and Robinson makes a lot of sense in terms of just like the athleticism that you have or don't have there. Yeah. Obviously, very good on the ball, Tim Ream, and I think Chris Richards is probably better in that way than Miles Robinson is. Right? Do we agree on that? Chris Richards is a better player with the ball at his feet.
I think so. Then Miles Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah. I think if I think back to his time playing for the Bayern Munich when he was there, I remember seeing some really fantastic highlights of him being able to do penetrating passes up the field. I don't know that Miles Robinson has ever gotten the touch and the quickness back from his most recent injury. I think he's still good positionally. I just don't know if he's quite the same player with the ball at his feet.
This is pretty funny. I don't want to know if I want to respond to it, but. Miles is no-footed. Okay, I mean, we don't live in an era though where you can kind of get away with just being a really good defender if you can't do certain things with the ball. That's just not how it works.
The injuries take advantage of players. Aaron Long is not as bad as he is now. Wasn't as bad as he is now 2-3 years ago before he has a gnarly Achilles injury. Miles Robinson has a gnarly injury as well. These guys they may not come back the same players they were before, but let's not say that they never had things.
We did, by the way, we went back to goal. I'm going to go back to goalkeepers because you said something about Stefan and whether he is dead to Berhalter. He did have surgery at the end of the year. I still think that you need to be playing first team minutes if you're going to get called up. Like that
guy deserves a call.
That's not fair. Because
do you think Stefan understands why he wasn't selected?
Horvath is not getting first team minutes and he's in this team.
To go from number one keeper to not even called. Do you think that he got the information he needed from Berhalter?
That's a good question. Do you think Berhalter owes him an explanation of that?
I think so. I think personally,
it's like a personal respect thing.
This was your club keeper, a guy that you had a relationship with, and a guy that you chose to make number one, despite evidence that he probably shouldn't have been for longer than he shouldn't have been. I get if you don't bring him, coach's decision. But I think if you're going to manage your player pool, a guy like that needs to have a conversation to understand what went on.
Okay. I mean, I guess if you don't handle that right, it's the kind of thing that can kind of fester.
I'm not arguing for Stefan to be in this even when he's healthy.
What I heard you say is that Zach Stefan should be the number one goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team. That's what I heard you said.
Tattoo it on my butt.
Anybody else hear him say it? Okay, let's go to midfield. Here are your midfielders: Johnny Cardoso, Ben Kramaski. That's how it's listed by U.S. Soccer, by the way. Ben Kramaski.
Instead
Luca
of
De La Torre, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Malik Tillman, instead of Benjamin or Benjamin, which, he tends to be called that in the MLS context. So I don't know if there's something going on there. Sort of like Alejandro versus Alex Zendejas. Yeah. It's like they anglicized somebody because he's playing for the U.S.
Don't care. They just vacillate back and forth between both.
No, I know.
When your wife says, "Hey, son," does that bother you?
First of all, it wouldn't be "Hey, son."
Yason.
It would be Hassan. But second of all, she calls me Flacco, so it doesn't really matter.
That's a weird, sexy term.
If she said
which party are you talking about?
If she said my actual name, I would be like, "What's going on? What's happening? Am I in trouble? What did I do?
Really? Just like using your middle name, she uses your name?
Yeah, if she says Jason, there's two reasons she would say my name. One, I'm in trouble. Or two, there are other people around and she needs to make it clear she's talking to me. But usually it's Flacco. That's it's 99%
Man,
of
that's
the
a
time.
lot
it's
of
Flacco.
pressure to go to the gym.
No, I mean, I've moved way past the skinniness I had when I met her.
For the
Which-
non-Spanish speakers, do you want to tell them what Flacco means?
Yeah, I mean skinny. It means svelte, I guess is what
you
could say.
you could say that if you want, but I think it's skinny.
No, it's skinny. I'm just kidding. This is going to sound so. I wasn't going to the gym when I met her, so part of my skinniness was like a lack of the muscle that I now have. I'm not saying I'm skinny. I'm not. I'm a 40-something-year-old guy who could lose a few pounds, but by no means am I fat either. So it's not like I've completely lost the justification for the Flacco name. And
Okay.
once a nickname is
Hassan.
established in a relationship, you hang on to it regardless of what happens. All right. So Johnny Cardoso, Ben Kramaski, Luca Della Torre, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Malik Tillman.
I'm not gonna lie. One of these, I know we both put Johnny Cardoso in our lineup, and it was just mainly because we felt like we had to. But I kind of getting to the point where it's like, Tanner Tessman get a shot.
Well,
I
you
really would.
see that bomb he hit
Oh,
to
dude,
win that?
yeah. But he was probably the best player on Venezia last season. And I get it was in the
but he's
second-
he's not a 6 the way that Cardoso's a 6, which I think is the
I
idea.
don't know,
here.
but we saw just in the most recent Nation Leagues game, we don't need to play with a straight 6. Yunus Musa didn't play a straight 6.
No, but I still
we
think that
did
it's a good
fine.
idea to have somebody that can do that, because you'd have
I'm
no
just saying, if
Tyler
you're going to take Ben
Adams.
Kramaski, wouldn't you rather have Tanner Tessman on this roster?
Rather. Yeah, I mean, is either one of them going to play any?
No, if you're
I
going to minutes to
guess.
someone,
I guess.
don't
I
know.
mean, there's certainly the argument that the only reason that Ben Kramaski, well, there are two reasons that Ben Kramaski is on this team. Number one, the man is basking in the glow and has like pixie dust from Lionel Messi. And number two, Argentina might want him, and this is the indoctrination process.
Yeah, but these aren't going to cap tie him though.
No, I don't believe that that's the case. He's played for the U.S. youth national teams in matches, but I don't think he's ever played for Argentina. So I don't know. I think if he played for the U.S., he would have to file a one-time switch to play for Argentina at that point, even in a friendly. I believe that's the case, right? So I don't know what. There's something that happened with Zendejas that kind of feels like it should apply here. But I know Zendejas played. He played for the U.S., then he played for Mexico, even though he shouldn't have played for Mexico because he was supposed to do a one-time switch. So what's the difference here with Kramaski then?
I don't know. All I know is that someone put a piece of paper in front of Zendejas and made him sign it as he got off a bus, and it was shady as hell.
That's how you think that happened?
That's what he said happened.
I guess that's true. Okay.
But here, I think our starting lineup is Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Luca Della Torre. I think that's the starting lineup, especially against teams the caliber of Oman and Uzbekistan.
I don't think. Fine, that's no 6. Then play Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, and give me Malik Tillman. Give me Malik Tillman. I know. Like I like Luca. Don't get me wrong. I just think Malik Tillman gives us more going forward, and I'd like to.
I would agree with that.
I mean, Weston has that ability.
But you got to think these teams are going to be bunkered in. Isn't Della Torre's ball movement going to be more important than Malik Tillman's ability to dribble? I don't know.
Maybe that's Malik Tillman can hit a pass. What are you saying? That Luca's a better passer?
I think this is a very good passer. I mean, in combination passer. I'm not saying
you have
like
a man crush on Luca Della Torre.
Look at him.
That's
You
true.
see him on the screen. Like, what's not the crush on?
There he is, right there. All right. I hope that it won't bother me if Kramaski doesn't see the field, obviously. And I haven't been high on Johnny, but I want to give Johnny a chance. I don't think that like the ship has sailed on Johnny being a contributor for the U.S. men's national team. So I would say I would want everybody to get on the field for significant minutes outside of Ben Kramaski. That's fair, right? I mean, it's only 6 players deep.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if Johnny
everybody.
Cardoso doesn't get a minute.
You don't care about Johnny Cardoso?
I don't. I just don't think he's the right caliber. I just think he's getting called up because Tyler Adams isn't good enough. Kellen Acosta's falling off form a bit. I don't think he is international caliber for us. In the minutes I've seen him play for the U.S. national team, I'm not watching much of international. I'm not going to lie. But when I've seen him get shots at the U.S. national team, he looks off the pace to me.
Okay, I saw somebody mention Leonard Maloney. Okay, the thing about Leonard Maloney is that there's just not enough of a book on him at a decent level. And I'm not saying that Johnny's better than Leonard Maloney. I can't make that judgment, but they know Johnny in a way they don't know Maloney.
That's true.
So I think you just keep watching Maloney in the Bundesliga because he just came up, right? He just helped Heidenheim get promoted. So I think you just watch him. And I know he was a Bayern Munich player at one point, whatever. But I think or was it Dortmund? He was at Dortmund. He was a Dortmund player at one point. You just watch him to see how he adapts in his first season where he's played, what, twice? They played twice in the Bundesliga this season so far?
Might just be once. I think they're a week behind the EPL, weren't they? Maybe they're the same week. I'm not sure.
The EPL, the Premier League
there's 2 because Aronson had a game and then he had his red card game.
Yeah, that's what okay. All right, so let's go to the forwards. Here you go. Brendan Aronson, aforementioned, Valerian Balogun. That says Arsenal because I copied and pasted. I know he's at Monaco. Don't blame me. It's the U.S. Soccer page that had that.
Who else should we blame?
Cade Cal. I was in a rush, man.
And you were sweating. I can see it on your forehead.
Your tech wasn't working again for some reason, so I had to
don't blame on me. All you had to do. Oh my god.
Help you log in by pushing numbers on my phone while I'm trying to do this. Also, the board's not working for reasons I don't actually know. So
Nick, come back.
Save us. You're our only hope. All right, so I didn't get to Cade Cal, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, and Tim Weah. Look.
I think that was the call-ups. I don't think there's much different that could have been done there.
Maybe. I will say that I am not on the Cade Cal train at the moment.
Yeah, but what's the next option?
Yeah, I know. It's like
take 6.
Go back to Areola or something,
yeah,
or give Jordan Morris a call, or I mean, I'm not even saying that there are.
Though, right?
What'd you say?
We're supposed to be looking forward, right?
Yeah, no. I that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that you bring in those veteran players, guys in their late 20s, when you've got a kid who still has potential.
I think if the injury hadn't happened, perhaps you see Josh Sargent here instead of Cade Cowell, and you bring 3 straight forwards because Sargent can play wide if necessary. But I don't know, Cade Cowell. I mean, he's getting a lot of pub. Was it the Bologna or Palermo that is looking at
Bologna. Palermo's in Serie B, by the way. That's where the Christopher Lund is playing.
Yeah.
Lund? Is it Lund? Not Lund.
Yeah, so
Lund?
I mean, they're giving the kid had a good U20 World Cup. I think his Gold Cup was very hit and miss. Very hit and miss.
Very hit. Well, I think his game is very hit and miss, kind of overall. Like, he is such a physical presence that your eye is drawn to him, and you're like, oh, he's going to do something amazing.
Just flapping in the wind.
And then 95% of the time, his end product is not very good. So, you just like to see some more consistency from the kid. I respect the man's haircut, but I don't know if I respect his game quite enough at this point. So there you go.
His game is hard to deal with when.
Listen,
but you don't want him to run at you. I think he's a one-trick pony, though. That's probably what it is.
To Connor's, yeah, but there are lots of guys who have been very, very good soccer players who have won things or been on good teams who had one trick, and hey, that trick was amazing. Like, that was the trick, and they kept doing it over and over and over again. Nobody could defend it. And I think Cade Cowell is that kind of physical. Like, I really do think that if Cade Cowell is coming at you with the ball at his feet, you're thinking, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Yeah. He needs to make better decisions. And maybe that's reps, and maybe being in these environments is going to help him get there. So to Connor's point, Connor was predicting Cade Cowell will be part of the team in 2026. I think that there's so many potential positives. It's going to be really hard to let go of Cade Cowell as a player in this national team setup. So
yeah, there is a pretty big drop off behind Christian Pulisic as well. I mean, Brendan Aronson obviously is an option, but Brendan Aronson isn't going to give you that same slasher kind of ability that Christian Pulisic is. Aronson's going to give you industry and a work rate. I think of where Aronson is more of a late game sub.
He can give you.
See out games.
He could give you 1-2s, go to wall pass kind of stuff, but I'm not even sure
and
I trust
against a
him when he
better
gets
team,
back on
he'll
the
give you
ball.
defensive pressure from the front. That's a huge thing.
I mean,
Paul Areola is one of the reasons why he kept getting called up throughout the 2022 cycle, is that he gave good pressure up front. And there's times where he got starts that none of us understood why, but when you see what Berhalter is trying to do and start with defense from the front, certain guys give you that. Cade Cowell, I don't know that he gives you that.
So we've got. Let's do the who's missing, right? So we talked about some injuries that
You could
affected.
make a
Obviously,
starting 11 out of who's missing.
Gio's not here because of injury. Well, so we can do that. A lot of people talking about Paxton Aronson. And Paxton Aronson started today
Yeah.
for Eintracht Frankfurt
I didn't see
in the
result.
Conference League. So he's obviously. I mean, they're managing things because they've got the league too. They did win 2-0, by the way. He came off, right? He didn't play. He came off in the 83rd, and they scored their second goal in the 86th. So they scored one with him on the field and one with him off. They obviously like him a lot. I was hearing in January, hey, Paxton Aronson is really adapting well, and he's going to be a player. And they think that he has the ability to contribute now. He's 20 years old. Would you rather? Would you like to have Paxton Aronson in this team?
It would be instead of Kate Cal. I guess that's the conversation we're having, right?
But is Paxton Aronson? He's not a winger, right? He's not that guy. So you're not
neither is
like
his
for
brother.
liking.
They're very similar in that regard, in that they're between players. They're players that are between roles. They do a little bit of everything.
In terms of
I
the
think
U.S.
Paxton
men's
Aronson's
national
probably
team.
more creative than Brendan Aronson, but I still don't know that in the way that Berhalter wants to play in that 4-3-3. I don't know necessarily how he fits in, other than a substitute winger. How else does he fit in?
Okay, so you just
A
gave
second
us
Gio Reyna?
a thought about, hey, what if Gregg plays a 3-man back line in one of these
Then
games,
I'm
right?
interested.
Okay, so he plays in a 3-4-3 for Eintracht, right? So and he plays in the forward line of that 3-4-3. So, but he's got players coming up wide.
He doesn't have to establish the width.
He's not playing the width, right? He's allowed to drift inside, which again is like his brother. But I think people think of Paxton as more creative than Brendan is, less industry but more creativity on the ball.
Yeah.
But you pointed out Gio, right? And I just had a conversation with Taylor Rockwell for the Total Soccer Show where we were sort of talking about. They'll go rewind all the way back to Gregg Berhalter telling Gio Reyna whatever his role was going to be at the World Cup, which kind of sparked the whole thing, right? Because Gio pouted after that, then the scrimmage happened, and then everything else. We don't know exactly what Gregg said, but I imagine, at least in my head, the way I interpret that is Gregg probably told him, "You're kind
This
of
isn't
coming,
your cycle.
You're coming back from injury, right? On some level, he had played some games, but I don't know that he was 100% fit. So there was at least some concern about that. You're working your way back to 100% fitness, and we play this in this style and." Where we play in this system, which we've established, and we're not changing it now at the World Cup. And you can argue about that, and maybe formation isn't necessarily effective of style, and he could have changed some things. But Gio Reyna is not a winger in the system that Berhalter plays because Tim Weah was already there providing the width. You're not pushing Pulisic out of the lineup on the left side. And at that point, and I know BJ maybe proved you can do it, but at that point, I think Berhalter was locked in on MMA, and there really was no place for Reyna in the midfield. And I'm not comparing Paxton Aronson to Gio Reyna, but there may be other players who are kind of in that. And Brendan might be one of those guys, right? So what role should Brendan play? Now, if you play a couple of holders, but they're free to roam and they're more 8s than 6s, and you play a creative player ahead of them like Gio did at the Nations League, well, then maybe we're talking there.
Yeah, I think Paxton Aronson is a bit of a bootleg Reyna in that regard in terms of how he can fit into the system without being the Pulisic.
That just makes me laugh. A bootleg Reyna. He's a bootleg Reyna. Okay, all right.
Am I wrong?
No,
like in terms of how he fits
all,
into this team. If
he's
Gio
20,
Reyna, there was
he's
conversation
20
we couldn't figure out how Gio fit into this team. We were talking about him as a winger, and then BJ Novak showed Berhalter the template for getting Reyna into this team. Reyna's not available. If Berhalter was at all interested in running a similar lineup to what had success with BJ at the Nations League, he could have brought Paxton Aronson in.
Yeah. By the way, another player in that sort of vein who had the Gold Cup and I don't think showed enough and isn't getting a lot of time right now with his club team is Georgie. And I'm a big fan of Georgie, but I just don't know that it's there right now for him.
I'll say this. When talking about Kate Cowan, if that's the right call up, there is a name that's probably maybe the next best winger that isn't on this team, and that's Alex Sendejas. And I don't believe he's injured with America right now. But did he play himself out of a first team selection?
I don't know that he played himself out of like future teams, depending on who's available. But I do think he is not. I don't think he's a first choice. I don't think he was a first choice guy coming in.
Not first choice is in 11. First choice is in the 23.
No,
or
I understand the 23. I don't think he was ever in that group.
So you think?
Do you think
do you think Kate Cowell's over him?
Well, I mean, I think if Gio's healthy, then this team looks different. I just don't know that. I mean, if Josh Sargent is healthy, this team probably looks different, right? And maybe I don't know. Maybe that's at the expense of Pepe, which
I like
you
me
know.
some Alex Zendejas. I just feel like he did not show well in those. Well, he didn't really have a chance in the Nations League, but at the Gold Cup, he was underwhelmed. But when you watch him for the Medica, the guy shows that he has something that a lot of players don't have
I
in
also,
this roster, and that's that one-on-one.
Okay, and maybe did you just freeze or did I freeze? Did I lose my connection somehow?
Oh, I'm back.
Are you? There you are. You froze. I was like, I thought I was gone.
I think it was me.
Yeah, there was a good. So you were saying that
Fortnite.
Zendaya says something that nobody else in this team has.
It's that ability with the ball at his feet, and I just don't think Berhalter or BJ Novak's system asks players to beat a lot of guys one-on-one. They'd rather beat him for speed behind. That's what Berhalter wants to do. And Pulisic, that is his thing. If there's someone's going to do on the field, I think they're expecting Pulisic to do it. It comes with risk.
Well, I think that there is a thought that you don't necessarily want to do the same thing all over the field, like on both flanks, right? You don't necessarily want to have the same approach. It makes it very predictable. So you have on one side, you have a Pulisic who you can, if you get the ball to and he's faced up with a defender, he's going to dribble that guy into
though, and I've been wondering about this. I wonder if you've noticed this as well. Can you remember the last time that Berhalter has ever inverted Pulisic and Weah during a course of a game to have a different look on the field?
It's happened. I can't remember.
Other than a natural switch on a corner kick or something like that, like an intentional move like that.
I've seen them do it. I can't remember what game. I'm sure the chat will have a reference point for that. I mean, because of the fluidity of our sport, it makes it really hard.
Do it every game at some point, and I just don't know that Berhalter does that.
I think I've seen it. Maybe it was the Nations League. Maybe it was stuff that happened. Because I don't have any reference for Berhalter except the World Cup now, right? We have to go back to the World Cup because he hasn't coached a game yet. Let's talk about there's some big news in women's soccer I want to get to, but how intense is the pressure on Berhalter? I mean, now probably not, but do you think there's actual pressure?
You think it's ever been higher than it is right now? I think World Cup's higher just because there's expectations around the gravity of the event. I think that pressure is higher. Personally, I think this is second to when he was out as a guy who hit his wife. Like that's got to be a higher level of pressure. From
that's a different. That's personal. That's like a personal thing. I'm talking about
what kind of pressure are you talking about?
Job, like he's not going to be coaching for his job
right now
against Uzbekistan and Oman. He's not coaching for his job against Germany and Ghana as much as those are better teams. He will be coaching. I guess the question is, if and I'm not wishing this, and I know everybody who's so certain it's going to happen you're killing me. Stop doing that. That's not what fans should do. But if the U.S. does not say get out of the group stage of Copa America, would they fire him?
I think it depends on what they looked like, how they played. I think there's a scenario where he doesn't. I think there's a scenario where he does. And I know that's not good radio. Like I should have a hot take on it or something like that. But honestly, I think it really depends on.
You always
if Pulisic and Reina get hurt before the tournament and they get bounced out, I'm like, okay. I mean, like, what are we really going to do?
There can be some mitigating circumstances.
I think it's more about how does it look on the field, because this is also a team that qualified third in qualifying. It's not like we breezed through it or anything like that, and he kept his job all the way through.
By the way, can I point out?
I think U.S. soccer is very much a cheaper to keeper kind of like.
I think that's exactly what happened here in my mind. But it's interesting to note that the two teams that finished ahead of the United States in World Cup qualifying, both of those coaches gone. Now Herdman left of his own accord with Canada, but Berhalter's the one man left standing at this point. So Tata got fired. He's in a better place.
Mexico's on their second coach since then.
He's in a better place. That is true. They did hire a guy and he sucked at the Nations League, and they hired another guy. So there's that.
It was rough. I do want to address from the chat. Luis was saying, who takes set pieces? Please no Pulisic. I'm not sure if Luis has been watching the AC Milan game so far. Pulisic's taking corner kicks for them, and they look very good. They look very good.
I don't know what is it just repetition he's doing?
I don't know what it is either, because I agree with the national team level. I've not been happy with it, but obviously Reina is probably the better server, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you both in preseason and the first games of the Serie A season, he's looked good doing it. He's looked good
Yeah.
all around, to be honest with you. Dude looks freed up.
I think that set pieces as a function, as a part of this team's effective, like set pieces in general, is something that they have to address in a much more active way. I know there was some talk about it going into the World Cup, but
that they had a
clearly
guy on the payroll for set pieces.
Clearly that, yeah, and I Berhalter just put together his new staff, and BJ's on it. Who else is on there? Somebody else that we know.
I didn't look at the list. I just saw BJ was on it.
The chat will know who's on Berhalter's staff.
Is it Jason Christ? Probably. He seems to always be on someone's.
He made some announcements. They made some announcements of that. He also talked about buckets, and man, I just again, it's this kind of leadership culture gobbledygook stuff.
Oh, where people have areas of ownership and areas of responsibility.
He talked, by the way, he also talked about player ownership of something, player ownership model. That's what I think he said, player ownership model.
Oh, I think so. I'll take an example of player ownership. Pulisic said he wanted Haji Wright, so that's who Berhalter took to the World Cup.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to figure out, let's see. I wanted to try to find those quotes. The one about the buckets, but it was basically like, what were you doing while you were working with U.S. Soccer but not actively coaching the team because BJ was in charge? And he talked about creating buckets. They're gonna create some buckets.
Okay, listen, you're being facetious on him. Like the part of what he's supposed to do is find divisions of labor and areas of responsibility. The fact he called them buckets is what you don't like. If he said I was assigning an org chart of areas of responsibility for my coaching team, my coaching staff, you wouldn't be saying a thing. It's because he said buckets.
No, I think I would be annoyed. I'd still be annoyed. I am
annoyed at Berhalter.
Well, but it's a culmination of like it's like an accumulation of all these things. Like if this was the first time he'd ever said something like this, well then I would go, okay, whatever. There's some buckets and they're working on areas to improve, and he's calling them buckets. But man, it's again the player ownership model. It's everything is very buzzy.
What if we
and I'm not sure it
found
means anything.
That the whole summer all he was doing was making a collection of bucket hats.
That would be amazing.
That paired with his footwear. And that's his new thing this season. That he's bucket hats on the side.
Do you think that Gregg Berhalter could pull off a bucket hat? Can any?
Oh, I think he thinks he can pull off anything. Have you seen?
You really think he said? You think he thinks that? You think he thinks that? You think he's that high on himself?
I think he thinks he can pull a lot of stuff off. Yeah.
By the way, it's Mikey Veras, and there's also somebody else I'm missing from that staff.
Like me some Mikey Veras.
Okay, Mikey Veras off the U20s is coming into this group.
I mean, that might be some of the reason why you're seeing guys like Kate Cal getting a shot.
I should shut up about the buckets. No more talk about buckets. Gregg Berhalter and his buckets. Berhalter's buckets sounds like something I should put on a T-shirt or something. That's something. All right, Julie Ertz is retiring, or she did retire. She's done, Jared. There's something to be said about the way she handled this whole thing to come back.
And that's where I'm conflicted. Whereas one of my all-time favorite players, and she's given everything she should be expected to give to the national team. She can retire with being one of the greats, but I think it's a little messed up if you're an Angel City fan, and you could make the argument that she used the team to get on the World Cup squad and now is leaving them with the job not done.
I think you could argue that. And I don't know that Angel City. Hold on, I'm not sure Angel City would be too annoyed. I really don't think they're annoyed by this. Like, do you get the sense they might be like, oh, this sucks, we're getting used? Because I'm not sure that that's the case.
Oh, they're not getting used. They got used. Past tense.
Well, okay, that's true. They got used, but I'm saying like
realized that they were down to be used as well. Listen, you're going to get one of the best defensive midfielders / center backs of all time for the U.S. national team for part of a season, not knowing they're going to lose her for 5 games after. But I think they were realistic about the fact that they were getting a short-term legend. I don't think they thought it'd be this short-term though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's that. I think it's one of those things like they're all consenting adults, and if they all agreed to this, I'm not really bothered by that. It does rub me the wrong way, but again, if Angel City doesn't care, then I don't know that I should care.
I'll tell you what I am surprised by though. I think you and I both talked about. We went through the women's roster for the World Cup about who had Olympics in her still. I think you and I both felt Julie Ertz for sure had an Olympics in her still.
Yeah,
Becky Sauerbrunn isn't ready by the Olympics, That is going to be a huge hole, both in terms of talent and leadership.
Well, she should be ready by the Olympics. It's like 10 months away, but I don't know. And Becky Sauerbrun's not a
I would
young
have thought
player.
Dahlkemper would have been back
she's not a young player
for a long time as well.
So there's
Back
that too.
injury,
Yeah,
though,
I know, and it looks like Kristen Press. Who knows if she's ever going to play again? And Sam Mewis.
Operating as if she won't. And Sam Mewis, I think, has a chance. She's way younger.
Oh, sure, but Sam Mewis has been going through that nightmare of surgery as well. So there's all of those things. I mean, I think it's as much as it's about kind of how she handled it and coming back and playing 7 games for Angel City and then going to the World Cup.
You think come March she feels differently and she gets on a NWSL team?
No, I don't think she makes this statement unless she's really sure about it. I think she wants to be with her kid. I think she doesn't want to miss the toddler years of her kid. As she wants to be there as much as she can. That's her right. She's 31. She could have played another 5 more years, another couple of tournaments, and by then it would have been 100%
at her position, especially if you.
We don't know how those 4 years or 5 years would have gone, but it was almost a certainty that she is therefore on the Mount Rushmore for the U.S. Women's National Team. Like she's one of the greats of all time,
for
2
sure.
different positions, et cetera, et cetera. I think she's,
she's still on Mount Rushmore for women's.
What'd you say?
Do you think she's on the Mount Rushmore for women's?
No, I don't think she is probably at the moment.
No, I don't think so either. Especially
I think we're talking
players.
Michelle, we're talking Mia, we're talking Abby, probably. Wow, there's some other ones in there too.
I mean, if you're being honest,
Hope probably belongs there, maybe.
Who's the one on Mount Rushmore that everyone's like, why is that Teddy? She's the Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy deserves to be on Mount. What are you, insane? Teddy Roosevelt deserves to be on
You put him on
Mount
Lincoln
Rushmore.
level?
For union, for the monopoly stuff, the antitrust busting, absolutely, I put him on Mount Rushmore for that, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
progressive
we're saying Mia,
Bull Moose
Michelle,
Party. Come on.
I would say Abby Wambach. What about Lily?
I mean, I will say Teddy Roosevelt did go stomping all over some other people's land, and
Christine
maybe
Lilly?
wasn't the best. She could be there, yeah, sure.
Rapinoe?
I mean, Rapinoe's not on the Mount Rushmore, but she's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Julie Foudy?
That's another one. I mean, there's argument there. I mean, there are some other ones. I mean, there are some
there's some
monsters of the
controversial ones that
90s.
people don't want to listen to.
Who? What?
There are some that people politically or
I mean, Carly. You can put Carly in there too. She's
if you're talking about just on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said you can't be like, well,
if you're talking about the best
Hope
goal,
did this and
best
the
goalkeeper
other
all time, it's Hope Solo. That
It's
just
Hope Solo.
hands down.
Now maybe we just say Mount Rushmore can't have goalkeepers. Maybe we just decide that.
Does she have a warrant out in Montana or South Dakota? Where's Mount Rushmore?
South Dakota, but I don't
South
think
Dakota?
so.
Okay, she's
do,
clean.
we need to check the blotter? Do we need to check the?
I just want to make sure. It'd be suck if she couldn't go to her own ribbon cutting.
That's so wrong. That's so wrong. All right, I'm gonna try this. Okay, we're doing an experiment because I think. Nope, it's too loud. I don't know what happened there. We'll fix it. Okay, I'll fix it in post. Anyway, any other news? Any other business? Maybe no. Too loud. Go ahead.
Why are you committed to this?
I don't know. I love the drop so much. I feel like I have to play. Go ahead.
With what?
Anything else? Any other business? Any other news
I
out
think
there?
if we want to just real quick touch on the fact that Messi finally is human. Miami drew against Nashville. If there was a team that was going to do it, Nashville seemed like maybe the one.
Wait.
They gave him some problem.
Is it drew or is it drawed?
They drew.
They didn't drawed. It's not.
I
They
said
drawed.
drawed?
It's they. No. I'm not saying you did. I'm asking. It's drew. Because this is
They
like
drew
swam
with-
and swum and swam.
They
swam.
drew with or
Swimmed. He swimmed or he
I
swam.
would never say that. I would say swam.
It swimmed. I think it swimmed.
Maybe, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't say it.
Is it not? Is it not swimmed and not? Is it?
I don't know.
Is it swam?
Nicholas Murray is from England. Ask him. I don't.
You invented the language, Nicholas. Tell us.
Tell us, man. Like we're just speaking it over here.
They say they say weird ones too. They say whilst or something like that. I don't think we say whilst or whatever.
Yeah, maths.
Into
It's always gonna
Miami.
happen. But listen,
Yeah,
0-0. I'm not sure if I expected it to be a 0-0 that was going to make it happen. I'm not surprised it was Nashville.
I remember what it is. It's not swum. It's dived, not
That's
dove.
the one for sure.
That's the one. That's the one I always get. Like, what is it? It's dived. Okay. All right. Do you think at this point anything changes for the outlook? Nicholas Soup and Sausage is very adamant that Messi and company are making the playoffs.
Yeah, I know, and we got to remember that they just drew against what was Nashville's second or third team in the East. What are they right now?
Nashville's like 5th or something.
Are they that far down?
Yeah. Maybe
God, it's
maybe
been
lower
such
than
a
that.
long break that
They're lower than that. They're lower than that.
Are they
Nashville.
lower than that?
Yeah. They had a good Leagues Cup. They're in 7th right now in the Eastern Conference.
Man,
Eastern
I'm just
Conference is a
thinking Leagues
beast, man.
Yeah,
The
you know,
East,
Leagues Cup and this has been so long that
the East is tough. The West is all bunched up with mediocre teams.
Nashville's still better than that, though. They're better than that. I mean, you saw them in the Leagues Cup. Like they have the ability to be a very, very good team in this league.
They do. They rested Hani Mukhtar. He didn't start that game.
They still got a draw.
They went. Well, what I'm saying is they went full on defensive. I know they didn't start Anibal Godoy, but they did start a bunch of guys. That was the clear idea was we're going to slow down Messi. We're gonna get a point out of this.
Was it on the bonus show or was it here where we talked with Nick and I said if you had $500 your own money, would you put it on Galaxy to make the playoffs or Miami to fit in the playoffs? And you both said Miami. Was that here or on the bonus show?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people in this chat can remember because I don't.
Okay, so Miami.
The bonus show didn't have much soccer in it.
Miami started the first 2 games, win and a draw. LA first 2 games, 2 wins. They were 5 points closer to start. They're playing in the West. Miami's playing in a tough
easier.
East.
Yeah.
Are you changing your mind yet?
I mean, the Galaxy. So the Galaxy right now are 5 points off of 9th, but they have to jump over 3 teams to get there. 4
but 2
teams
games in hand on all of them.
On all of those teams. That's true. 5 games. Miami is 10 points back of Chicago, who's in 9th, and they have to jump over, what is that, 5 teams
they have 2
to
games
get there?
in hand on some of them. 3 games in hand on New York, but
yeah, they got 3 games in hand. Well, I wouldn't worry about New York City. I don't know that they're the challenge. The challenge here, and I guess they could because they're 7 points up. They could put it. But man,
I just think it's an interesting thing to keep track of because they both these teams like LA is 1 loss in the last 9 since Chris Klein was fired. They're 5-4-1, no 4-4-1. Miami's on a tear right now. If there's 2 teams that are going to make a push, it's these 2. I'm just interested to watch that and see if there's enough time for both of these or either of these teams to make it.
You know, real quick before we get done, I don't know how much of the rest of the league you watched last night on a Wednesday night with MLS. There were a couple of ghost goal situations, certainly one in Austin where Stephen Fry appeared to save a shot that may have crossed the line.
That's a tough one. I mean, I didn't. Maybe there's an angle that I haven't seen yet. I watched a couple. I don't think any of them were conclusive.
Apparently, VAR didn't have an angle that was conclusive. That's fine.
And that's kind of criminal. I'm not saying we need goal line technology, but there should be one camera on the line if you're committing.
Well,
to
but
VAR.
I don't think that's the thing. Like, you have to standardize that in order to use it in every stadium for every game. So you either have goal line technology and you use the same technology and it's like the chip in the ball or whatever, right? Or you triangulate the position of the cameras or whatever you do. Or people are saying slap a GoPro on the post. Yeah, but you have to standardize that across the league in order to make it so that you use it for those decisions, whatever that approach is. But there is an angle out there that looks like the ball's clearly across the line. Austin doesn't get that call. Fry and the Sounders get a Albert Rusnak volley and win that game. And it's not really about those 2 teams because I don't think Austin is good. And I think Seattle's going to make the playoffs, even if they're not really MLS Cup caliber this year because they're aging. But my question is, think about this scenario. We come down to decision day and Inter Miami is fighting for the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
And Lionel Messi takes a shot and it's saved. And people are crying for it to be called a goal because they think it crossed the line. But no camera for VAR has a definitive view of the ball crossing the line. But there are other cameras maybe out there, other people in the stands who are videoing Lionel Messi.
I'm telling you, if that happens, Apple TV is going to miss out on Messi numbers in the playoffs. They will front the money for the goal line technology next year.
Well, but it's too late. The call's already been made. What do you do?
Next year.
I actually think that's possibly not a best case scenario because obviously Messi going and more games with him playing. I get it. But if you don't have Messi in the playoffs, have him miss by such a small margin via some massive controversy, and it will be talked about. Billions of people will be talking about that ghost goal.
And millions of dollars will be lost.
Well, maybe. But that attention can be rolled into other things, right? I don't know. And then what you do is you make Lionel Messi like an all-time quarterback, and you assign him to various teams throughout the playoffs just to see what
He's wearing the yellow penny.
Yeah, that's right. He's got a yellow penny.
Plays
He's no
both
touch.
sides.
No
both
touch,
sides.
Lionel Messi. He plays the first half for one team. He plays the second half for another team. That's how you maximize the Messi effect. That would be amazing.
I think my man would enjoy his Miami winter if that's
All right. I will highly encourage everybody listening to this show via the podcast feed or on the YouTube channel or wherever you're partaking in this program to go over to the Patreon and join us at the Best Soccer Show Patreon, because you get access to the community, which is the Best Soccer Show Slack, which is absolutely amazing. Everybody having a good time. We have bonus shows. I want to give you a rundown of the topics from last week's bonus show, because I put this together when I finally posted the show. We talked about a cappella groups.
Yes.
We talked about what our a cappella group would be called if we had one for the Best Soccer Show, which I don't think we ever got to a good name. We need some help with that.
The toner kicks?
It's somebody help us out with some musical pun for our a cappella group. We talked about Weird Al Yankovic.
Hell yeah.
We talked about TV shows.
I gave my top 3 songs. If you're not into Weird Al, the 3 songs I would suggest you listen to get into Weird Al.
You did do that. We talked about the TV shows. You brought The Prisoner from like the 60s, which I'm sure Nicholas Murray's he's got to know about The Prisoner, right? He's got to be like.
I think you have to, right? To retain your passport.
I don't know. I don't know how important that is to him, but Severance and Lost and Fringe all got mentioned. Scratch off lottery. Jared had this moment with scratch off lottery tickets. It was amazing. We talked about gambling. That was off the lottery tickets, obviously. We talked about Twitter or X or Twix or whatever they're calling it.
I won't call it X.
We talked about certain people out there in American soccer media. I'm not going to say who or how we talked about them, but we did. We talked about...
Wait, did you make these notes as we did it last week, or you listened to the bonus show?
No, I kind of went back and listened a little bit because it was a very good show. Free Ballers of America needs a logo, so help us design that. That's
no, it was the anti-underwear.
No, you settled on Free Ballers of America, but there was a point where you were like anti-underwear league or something like that, which might work. I don't know. Hurricane Hillary came up because Jared did not float away, and then we talked about tamales and pasteles and Mexican food for a while. So that was the bonus show. We squeezed all of that into 48 minutes. So it was that's what you're missing if you're not part of the Best Soccer Show Patreon community. Should also encourage people to go check out One Shot on Frame. I know Jared's not involved. He doesn't care and he hates it, but it's out there.
Where's my cut?
It's on YouTube. First episode with Hercules Gomez. All 5 parts are out. I'm working on part 2. Jared, can you guess who part 2 is with? Not part 2, episode 2.
Wait, I know the people you've done. Should I guess like one of those?
Oh, that's right. I did tell you all of them.
I'm going to say, okay. I'm guessing that you followed up Hercules. I'm going to say you followed it up with Taylor Rockwell.
I did not. Though I did tease some of what I talked about with Taylor on his show that I recorded with him. So that should be coming out.
You want me to keep
Total
guessing? Because I know
Show.
who the other people are. I don't want to give your stuff away.
Okay. I will say that this person is a polarizing character in American soccer, and you can figure that out. I don't need to tell you. I don't need to say who else or anything else about
Berhalter.
that. I wish, man.
You get
I wish I had
Claudio
Berhalter.
Reyna.
Don't do that to me, because those are all like dream scenarios.
He brings in a picture of him and Greg from their college years.
And
he's like, this was my best friend.
Oh, my God. Well, they didn't go to the same college, but yeah.
Oh, high school, right? Sorry.
Yeah, well, just at like maybe North Jersey soccer or something. Yeah, that would be.
Hey, by the way, before we get off, does anyone know what Bruce Arena did yet?
No.
What the hell? What's going on?
No, nobody knows. It's a mystery. It's going to be one of the great soccer mysteries in America. Bruce Arena is going to
way for a guy's legacy.
He's going to retire. Like something's going to happen. They're going to pay him off. He's going to go home, back to California, hang out with his kids and his grandkids. I don't even know where Kenny is these days.
I saw him. He's
in Cincinnati.
I think he's coaching in Cincinnati.
That's right. So he's going to go. Bruce.
Bruce Lefty's doing #free Bruce. I want to know what he did before I say #free Bruce.
Absolutely. I don't want to defend a man if I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
I know Mike McGee was out there being very vociferous on the Twitter machine, on the
In
Twix.
favor or not in favor?
It's basically like, this is bullshit. Bruce is the sweetest guy in the world. He would never say anything mean about anybody or wrong to anybody.
Yeah. You know who else
You
has said
know.
it about?
Yeah.
Cosby.
They might have said,
Cosby.
okay, whoa.
I'm just saying, there's been good dudes that we
whoa.
thought were good dudes in the past that weren't
Let's
good
not
dudes.
Let's not equivocate.
And
Make
Bruce Arena likes
equivalences.
sweaters.
I'm just saying, Bruce is what, 70 something at this point. He doesn't need this shit.
Dude,
He
you don't want to
doesn't
be
need this
McConnell
shit.
out there. You don't want to be coaching to the point where you're just standing on the sideline and not be able to answer anything in a press
Man,
conference.
this is why I got to get the drops working again, because I can't. This
Be
all of these
associated
things.
with
It's almost like I play the drop. It's almost like
fine.
you smack when you
For
smack
the
your
MAGA
pup.
people,
Hold on.
Feinstein too.
When you smack a puppy on the nose because they've done something they're not supposed to do. That's what I feel like the drop is for Jay Rodius, and I don't have the paper. I don't have the newspaper to smack you on the nose.
Untethered.
Are you
This beast.
a puppy I smack on the nose with rolled up newspaper, or are you a cat I spray with mist? Which one are you, Jerry? Which
Who
one?
would want to be sprayed instead of smacked?
I don't know. I'm asking if you're a cat person or a dog person.
I do
know
pee
you
on the floor sometimes, but
All right, that's going to do it for the best soccer show here on a Thursday night. I'm not playing us out, so we're just going to get out of here. I'll put the music in post. Thank you very much for listening. Patreon.com/the best soccer show. Hi, Nick. Bye, Nick. Anything else, Mr. Dubois?
sell out Nick, not here.
Bye, guys. See you next week.